You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Bitcoin, Ether, Solana, Doge, and more. Cryptocurrencies and digital assets are taking the financial world by storm. This exploding market provides everything a savvy trader needs: volatility, volume, and liquidity, provided you know how to find it. That's where we come in. Welcome to the Crypto Rundown. Each week, we'll break down the latest trading activity, trends, and developments throughout the world's leading crypto derivatives markets. If it's moving the crypto markets, then you'll find it on the Crypto Rundown. The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amber Data. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amber Data delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amber Data eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. Now it's time to dive into the exploding world of crypto derivatives. It's time for the Crypto Rundown.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back on a Monday. Time to roll out the old crypto rundown, explore what's going on in these crazy crypto markets that we're all keeping an eye on these days. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as on the network upon which all you folks are mainlining these days. Hopefully you've had a chance to check out the latest addition to the network, the Futures Rundown. Very much inspired by this show. We talk about a lot of futures activity over there. We also dovetail into the world of crypto, as you might imagine. Crypto futures, hot and heavy these days, including the latest listing from CME. Their highest volume crypto derivative product they've launched yet, Friday Futures. Bitcoin Friday Futures, BFFs. That brought a smile to my face. Maybe it'll bring a smile to your face as well. Check out the Crypto Rundown, of course. Excuse me, the Futures Rundown. I did it myself. Check out the Futures Rundown. Wherever you find this fine program, you just upgrade to the full network. It's all there, waiting for you there, listeners. The second you hit that subscribe button, of course, you want to go above and beyond, head on over to theoptionsinsider.com/pro. Once you're there, that'll get access to pro Q&As, options oddities, giveaways, live streams, all sorts of fun on the old pro. Speaking of fun, we're set for a good time on the show today because we are joined once again by our old pal, Mr. Bill Ulivieri from Cenacle Capital Management. Mr. Bill, welcome back to the show, sir.
Mark, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be back.
All right, with that ray of sunshine in the crypto hot seat, let's dive on into a little bit of the old Bitcoin breakdown.
It's time to explore the latest trending activity, trends, and developments across the world's leading crypto market. It's time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Bitcoin Breakdown, the portion of the show where we do just that. We break down all the action, or perhaps lack thereof, in the world of Bitcoin. I can't recall the last time we were pretty much unchanged on the week here on the show. It's been a while. You can usually count on Bitcoin to go a little somewhere in the intervening week. This week, not so much. We closed our show last week, 63,340 in the old BTC. Kicked off the show this week, 63,336. We moved a whopping 4 handles, listeners. So I guess that's it. Show's over. We'll come back next week. But, we had a little bit more range, did a little bit more living in between episodes of the show. We hit our low. We threatened the 60K level, 6637 back last Wednesday. And the high came pretty much during our show, 63,340. It was pretty close to the high out there. We were flirting with the high level as we were doing the show last week. So a lot of fun to be had. Mr. Bill, we settled out to pretty much unchanged on the week. You don't see that too often in the world of Bitcoin. But what's been catching your eye out there this week, sir?
Well, in crypto, listen, it's been really interesting, this Bitcoin versus gold relationship between one or the other. The non-correlated assets, the flight to quality for gold bugs, like things like that have really caught my eye. And also, the things that have caught my eye, frankly, is the world of options. So we're going to have a conversation about that a little bit later. Really cool stuff going on here, Mark.
Oh, is there something going on in Bitcoin options? I must have missed it, sir.
No, not Bitcoin options, but I know I always like to go on different tangents when possible, right? It's the squirrel mentality that I have. But standardized options, right? The Skew, and we can talk more about that later on how that might be affecting Bitcoin's performance, and there's so much to talk about.
All right, well, let's get out there then, listeners. Let's get to that data Bill is so excited for. Of course, you can check it all out for yourselves. Amberdata.io is the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires on a whole bunch of data, a lot more than we just kind of scratched the surface on the show here, listeners. We'll start in vol land and then work our way out to the Skew. What do you say, listeners? And on the weekly vol front, as you might imagine, we ended up $4 away from where we were this time last week. So not a heck of a lot going on the weekly vol front. We were at a 46.25 last week, 44.25 this week's coming in exactly 2 points. On the 30-day vol front, things a little bit more interesting. We were at a 51.9 on the show last week, 53.4, so ticking up a little bit out there on a more standardized 30-day vol metric. And then going out 6 months, 180 days, listeners, where the hodlers hang out. The vol last week, 59.1. This week, 57.5. So we're seeing a whole bunch of kind of vacillation on the vol front. Let's see if we can find any clearer direction in the Bitcoin Skew front, shall we, listeners? Let's go out to the 7-day Skew. And last week, it was pretty much flat, which pretty much means no real bias, no premium being priced in either direction to the calls or the puts. And this week, it's pretty much the same. Slightly bearish, negative 0.3. I would pretty much put that flat. Anything really within a point is flat to me. So not much really of a bias in either direction. Going out 30 days, pretty much the same deal. Last week on the show, we were pretty close to flats, modestly bullish, 0.75, so not even a full point in one direction. This week, about the same, 0.85, ticking up ever so slightly. But again, I would put all that pretty much in the flat category as well. And then going out a full 6 months last week, we were hanging out 3.5 points, and you expect to have a bit of a bullish premium to the long-term options. After all, it's where the hodlers hang out. They're going to buy some calls. 3.5 points is pretty low, all things considered. That's ticking back up this week, up about 2.25 points to 5.7 points worth of bullish upside premium. All right, Mr. Bill, a lot of vacillation in the vol and the Skew kind of hanging out this week. What caught your eye out there, sir?
Well, what caught my eye again is the CBOE Skew Index, if you can believe it. I'm looking at a chart, Mark, going back to 1990, and it's basically never been higher in all our history. For the most part, the CBOE Skew Index doesn't get much above 155, 156, 160, and it's trading like 162 right now. So other than COVID, right? Other than peak interest rates in late 2021, and we got that bear market in 2022. Other than that, our Skew has been trading between, say, 104 and 150. And I find it really interesting that we are really in an environment that nobody's talking about. Is that why is SPX Skew so unbelievably steep with the VIX? It's not exactly like record levels. Why is that? Why are things so steep? And like you said, Bitcoin Skew incredibly low. So is there an unwind going on? Is this part of the U.S. dollar, the yen carry trade, where people are getting out of some of the derivatives and technology in Bitcoin? Did people borrow in yen and buy Bitcoin with their zero interest rate loans? Like, there's a lot of complicated things going on, and I don't have the answer. I'm just saying it's all darn interesting.
Yeah, Skew Index. We don't talk about it a lot here on the Crypto Rundown that often, and we don't talk about it a lot in general because it's kind of a weird index. As you pointed out, you throw out a number like 156 or 171. People look at you like, what does that even mean? It's got this weird obtuse nomenclature to it. It's only close to close, so you can't even really look at it intraday. So I don't look at Skew Index that much, but I just pulled it up as you were talking, and you're right. We are kind of flirting with those levels again that we haven't seen since the heady days of early 2021. We know what was going on in early 21, listeners. Things were mad. We were still kind of very much in the COVID whirlwind. And of course, the meme stock palooza was kicking off. So there was a lot of things driving Skew back then. But it brings us back to a couple of interesting problems that I have with the Skew Index, Bill. First off, like I said, it's close to close. So utility for traders is not really there. And then also it's got two moving parts. It's got the skew wing and it's got the put wing, I should say, and the call wing. And so when you see these numbers inflated, you never really know what's driving it. Now, if we look at some other metrics, like if you go to our TWIFO show, for example, listeners, and you can find these reports for yourselves. We put them all out there for free. Just go to cmegroup.com/TWIFO, TWIFO. You can run things like the quick skew report. That'll show you the skew in the E-mini S&P options. Pick your poison, NASDAQ, Russell, whatever equity option you want. And you'll see that the premium for those puts has been ticking up steadily for the better part of the last month. And that is really what's driving the Skew Index. So the Skew Index doing its job. It's just not my favorite indicator for this. But a long way around to saying, Bill, that if you want to buy some protection right now in the S&P 500 in particular, it's going to cost you maybe an arm and a bit of a leg, sir.
Exactly. And that's my point, Mark. I mean, anybody who's worried and trying to protect their portfolio with the, Ukraine, Russia, Gaza versus Israel, the elections coming up, the Hurricane Helene and the other hurricanes, like, I think anybody who's needed to buy downside protection for their portfolio, I think they've already done it. So the question I want to ask myself is, if the market does decline like it has, like it's down 500 points today, NASDAQ down 1%, Dow is down 1.19, and I've got the SPUs down 1%. Like if we do decline, how much insurance at these levels is really going to help you? And that's why I think it's kind of interesting, because I have this crazy belief that Bitcoin is actually a leading indicator in the trading world. Seems to kind of make a high before the market makes a high, and it makes a low when the market has already made a low. So I just find it interesting that Bitcoin, all things considering, has held up pretty well. We have CBOE SPX skew, the steepest that I've ever seen. And let's be honest, the upside call is never a threat. It's always the downside puts the threat, right? That's when you get a phone call from your clearing firm or your risk manager. And I'm raising my hand as the former risk manager. I never would call them up saying, you're short too many upside calls. We'd be like, okay, you got to do something about those downside puts because, skew is so jacked. And so I think there's a lot of interesting things going on. And, here we are with lower interest rates, Fed Powell cut 50 basis points. There's just a lot of uncertainty, and I just find it fascinating that the skew is so steep at this point in time.
So you're expecting to see a commensurate level of bid to the puts in the Bitcoin, and we're not seeing that, and you're kind of trying to intuit as to what's driving that, sir.
Exactly. I am intuiting that, so that if I was an insurance company, if I was a hedge fund, and we're doing this with our own clients, we're looking to sell. We're doing cash secured puts. And I want to thank you, Mark, so much for reigniting my passion for options, because we've had a great, 8 weeks. We reconnected with this, and we have been doing cash secured put options like crazy. And it's worked out pretty well. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm really, really happy with the results. And I think that what's making it so attractive is, again, there's this tail versus wagging the dog. When SPX skew gets steep, we sell it in the SPX and we go out into the equity world and buy the components. All right. And we're always flipping these things back and forth. And we sell SPX skew, we buy QQQ skew. And when we sell Russell 3 times we buy 2Q. You know, there's all these ratio spreads. And I'm just saying that we can't always look at things, singularly. We need to look them like holistically at what's going on in the marketplace. And I just find it really interesting that, Bitcoin, again, which I believe is one of the top not economic indicator, but trading indicators, is kind of flat, not really doing anything. Yet the fear is going on in the regular market. And wouldn't it be interesting if the market just blew up to the upside and all this insurance disappeared, nobody needed it, and Bitcoin goes on to make new highs? Is that possible? Of course, but as you said, I'm just trying to figure this out.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just crunching the numbers right now while you were talking, and looking at SPX, the Skew out there, the 30-day Skew in SPX, listeners, is at the 99th percentile. So that's 52 weeks going back a year. So it's pretty much at the top of the range that it's been for the past year. You do the same analysis in Bitcoin-heavy products like BITO, for example. They're at about the 60th, 65th percentile. So much lighter Skew out there, not quite as steep in the realm of Bitcoin options. Speaking of BITO, let's get out there, listeners, and see what's popping off out there. BITO right now, 1810, down about a point from where it was this time last week. Of course, we saw this time last week a flurry of paper going up, trying to capture that dividend out there, going ex-div on the show a week ago. Hundreds of thousands of contracts come flying in right at the end of the day, right during the show, actually. It was kind of strange. Don't expect that today. In fact, that's not the case right now. 60,000 contracts on the tape against an ADV of 92,000. That is up about 7,000 contracts from this time last week. Again, that heavy rush last Monday, probably attributing some of that out there. The vol also ticking up a bit, 62, up about 7 points from this time a week ago. In terms of size positions, nothing out there really blowing our doors off. It's still the Jan 30s and 35s. They've kind of been open for size for quite a while. Let's keep on rolling out there to the land of BitX. So you know what? Since we're having fun talking about Skew, let's do the same analysis for BitX. BitX right now, 28 and a quarter, up a quarter of a point. So even the levered product, not really moving right now, listeners. The ADV is 19,000 contracts a day. That's unchanged on the week, even though today we've seen 22,000 contracts hit the tape already. So probably going to tick up a little bit. The vol kind of treading water as well, 108 down a whopping point out there. But the 30-day the 30-day implied vol Skew out there in BitX is a little bit juicier than BITO, which again, you should probably expect. It is a levered product. So we're talking about the 65th percentile or so for BITO and the 75th percentile for BitX. So a little bit steeper, but nothing explosive out there yet. Mr. Bill, anything catching your eye? I know last time you were on the show a few months ago, you were talking about selling some puts in BITO. Did that ever come to pass, sir?
No, it has not, but it's on my screen. I'm watching it, and I'm getting enticed. I'm getting pulled away from MicroStrategies, downside puts, Coinbase, downside puts. So those, for me, have been a little bit more interesting because I think that the return, if flat, numbers are insanely attractive and juicy. And I've been focusing our client funds and my own personal funds into GDLC, which you and I had talked about before, it being around 36% under net asset value.
Before I get out to some of the other products out there that people like to sling options on for crypto exposure in their accounts, there has been a big change since the last time you and I chatted on the Bitcoin derivatives front in particular. That is the approval of the options on IBIT. Now, of course, we don't have listed options yet. There's still, sounds like a long way to go. People are hoping we'll see them listed before the end of the year. Maybe not. But I'm curious for you, Mr. Bill, does this development excite you? This is a thing people have been waiting for ever since the ETFs were approved back in January. Here we are in October now, and we finally got the options approval, sir. What the heck's going on out there?
Well, I got to be honest with you, just watching what I see on Twitter, crypto Twitter, I should say. Gensler is losing some of his credibility. He may have been responsible for some of, potentially, I'm not saying that he is, it could have potentially been a problem with this thing called Operation Choke Point, I think it was called, where Silvergate Bank, Silicon Valley Bank all kind of blew up based on some regulatory backroom dealings. And so I'm just wondering, like, when we got the BlackRocks, we've got the big players like Fidelity and all the big firms, Franklin Templeton, the list goes on and on. They want this stuff. They want to keep assets here. They want to grow their AUM, and they don't want it to go overseas. And so I think that these large firms see the writing on the wall. The things that you and I have been talking about since, 2016? We were joking around about Bitcoin options, and the Chicago Board Options Exchange on their futures platform, right? The CBX, I think it is, where they were listing, Bitcoin futures contracts. And I don't know. I mean, I just think that this is just part of the evolution of cryptocurrency. It's mainstream adoption, and it just makes sense. I mean, again, I think not every crypto, but certainly the ones that you and I talk about, with the exception of Toncoin and Shiba and all these things, they're going to be listed. We're going to have ETFs. We're going to have futures contracts, Friday-only futures contracts, and options. And I think it's really exciting.
Oh, we'll get to Toncoin in a second, sir. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, let's pay off a little bit of Mara here. Mara right now kind of treading water this week as well. $15.90, down about a third of a dollar. The ADV, 197,000 contracts a day, up about 5,000 from this time a week ago. So steadily climbing. It's got a ways to go. It was at 400,000 not too long ago, so roughly half that level now, but still holding its head above water there. Today, 172,000, so it seems like we might be on pace to hit that ADV again today. The vol at an even 100, up 12 points, so Mara looking a little bit spicier out there this week. In terms of size positions, it's 39,000 of the DEES 32s. So we talked about for a while, there's been a lot of OI on the 30 and close to 30 strikes out there. I think people looking at that chart, they've seen Mara kind of vacillate between roughly 15 on the downside and roughly 30 on the upside. And I think that's informing a lot of this paper. Jan 30s are number 2 on the list, 37,000 of those. So those folks are probably at past this prologue hoping for a quick return to the loftier levels of Mara. As we keep on rolling, listeners, it is time to explore the altcoin universe.
It's time to move beyond Bitcoin and find out what's moving the rest of the crypto marketplace. It's time to boldly venture into the altcoin universe.
All right, everybody, let's do it. Let's break down the top 10 movers and shakers to kick things off here in the altcoin universe. It's fun to watch the evolution of this, and the bottom half of the top 10 is really where all the fighting is going on out there. And we got a little bit of a switcheroo this week as well. It cost us about $13.5 billion to break into the top 10 last week, slightly lower this week, 13.3. That gets us to Toncoin. So Toncoin falling to the number 10 spot. I'm sure Bill will be brokenhearted. Number 9, Tron, eking past it this week, right around $13.5 billion. So the level that would have cost you to break in last week, this week gets you to number 9. Excuse me, and number 9 would be Bill's other favorite, which is Tron, of course. So a lot of T's in the bottom half of our top 10 this week. Number 8, staying firmly locked at the number 8 level, listeners. It's everyone's favorite. It's Doge. You love it, you hate it. Either way, it's putting up $16.25 billion worth of market cap out there this week. Number 7 is XRP, because of course it is $30.5 billion. Number 6, USD Coin, $35.3 billion. Number 5, it's Solana, $69.25 billion. Number 4, BNB, $83.6. Number 3, it's Tether, $119.6. This top half, not as exciting, listeners. Everything's kind of locked in the same spot forever. Number 2, of course, it's ETH, $295 billion. And the big dog, Bitcoin, $1.25 trillion. Pretty much exactly where it was this time last week. No surprise, a lot of treading water out there this week. And that's pretty much the case for ETH as well, even though it is down a little bit more net on the week than Bitcoin was, a whopping $4 for Bitcoin. I think we can do a little better in ETH. We were at 25.80 on the show last week, 24.56 as we were kicking off the show this week. So down about 124 handles on the week. The high came pretty much during the show last week. The low, we actually dipped below that level a little bit, got to 23.5 back last Thursday. So not seeing the low on Wednesday like in Bitcoin, but actually coming last Thursday. Since then, we've covered about 100 handles, hanging out right around 24.5 to kick off the show. Mr. Bill, anything catching your eye in the world of ETH this week, sir?
Again, I kind of like the chart pattern. The decline. I mean, yes, we've hit a decline. The market did get a little bit overheated in the beginning of this year when Ethereum traded, above 4,000. I don't know, Mark. we just keep moving in this direction of Ethereum and derivatives that come off the Ethereum blockchain. Find it very, very interesting. There's still billions and billions and billions of value that's locked up in smart contracts. I don't think Ethereum is really going anywhere. And when I say that, I don't think we're going to see those kind of declines like we're used to seeing in a quote unquote bear market. And, we could say what we want about interest rates still being high. The SOFR rate, the secure overnight funding rate of the federal government, is still very high. We have what appears to be increasing unemployment. When was the last time we ever actually had a soft landing? Beats me. I don't know if we've ever had one in 40 years. It seems that the Fed reduces interest rates when there's blood in the streets. And so I just think that crypto is holding up extremely well. And I don't think we're going to kind of get that, the bad news in the cryptocurrency world that we used to. Although I think our focus is just someplace else. It's the typical squirrel moment where it's gold, it's this, it's that. And I think we're just taking a little bit of our eye off the ball on crypto and focusing on AI, right? Palantir and NVIDIA.
Well, let's take that focus back on ETH, shall we? And let's start with the Skew. Actually, we'll start with the vol once again and work our way out, listeners. Let's go out to the 7-day vol first. It was at 54 on the show this time a week ago, 51 today. So again, kind of gently drifting lower on the weekly vol front. But on the 30-day vol front, kind of like we saw on Bitcoin, getting a little bit firmer, which is interesting. Not much, but a little bit. 59.25 on the show last week, 60.5 this week. And then going out to where the hodlers hang out, 180 days, 67.33 this time a week ago, 64.10 this week. So down about 2.25 points, actually 3.25 points here on the week. Going out to the Skew listeners, we saw things mildly bearish this time a week ago, negative 1.6 on the weekly Skew front, not a ton. This week, a little bit more, tilting a little bit more to the dark side, negative 2.5 on the weekly Skew front. This time a week ago on the monthly Skew, we were looking pretty flat. This week, about a negative 1. So again, ticking slightly bearish out there this week. And going all the way out 6 months, same deal, 3.75 on the show last week, and an even 3 this week. So taking a little bit off the top on the vol side and looking a little bit bearish out there, slightly, ever so slightly, on the Skew front. Mr. Bill, anything catching your eye in the world of either vol or Skew, sir?
No, sir. Again, I've been focusing my efforts, as I've said in the last couple of chats that we've had, together. It's the Ethereum Classic Grayscale product, and it's the Grayscale Digital Large Cap Closed End Fund. So those have been, again, where my focus is. I love Ethereum, love, how much I love crypto and how I think it's the thing. This is the thing. But itself, I think there's places to really leverage profitability that isn't right in the front burner. I think I got to look for stuff in the back of the weeds, and that's where I think I'm finding value.
Ooh, a little bit of a tease. We always like to get Bill's altcoin universe pick before we get there, listeners. Let's run through some of the rest of the altcoin universe, see how they're faring this week. I'll start with Solana, 154.45 on the show last week, 148.04 to get precise on the show this week. Down 641, taking a little bit of a hiatus out there in Solana land. Same thing in XRP, 61.8 cents last week, 54.1 cents, down to almost 8 cents, 7.7 cents on the week. We always know the deal now with XRP. It can't maintain a bid, and unfortunately that's playing out again this week. Dogecoin, 11.7 cents last week, 11.1 cents. So not enough to kick it from the number 8 spot, at least not yet, listeners. Litecoin, 66.89 last week, 65.61. This week down about $1.28 on the week, listeners. Cardano, 37.8 cents last week, 35.5 cents. This week down about 2.3 cents. Polkadot, 4.51 last week, 4.22, down a whopping 29 cents. And everybody's favorite, I know it's Bill's favorite, Shiba Inu, a million zeros, 1.773 last week. This week, 1.804, so ticking up ever so slightly. Can the Shiba Lambos be far behind, I ask you, listeners? But you know what, Bill? I know all the folks are tuning in for some of your, we need a little drop, a little transition for this. Bill's fun altcoin of the week, or what's Bill's got in his wallet this week? Something along those lines. Mr. Bill, what altcoin are you keeping an eye on this week, sir?
Okay, this is the one that came across my desk. I think it's really interesting. And that altcoin The symbol it's called SUI, SUI, SUI. And surprisingly, it was staring me right in the face without even really paying attention to it because the market cap currently is $5.7 billion. So it's greater than Ethereum Classic, greater than Stacks and Theta, and some of my favorites, but a little bit less than Shiba Inu. Actually, about 50% less than Shiba and about a third of Dogecoin. SUI is kind of an interesting project because the guys that used to work at Facebook, Meta, when Facebook and Meta were working on their digital platform called Libra, these guys decided to leave Facebook and open up their own company. And what they've done is they've created a layer one, like a base layer blockchain that uses I'm not going to say it's not secure. I'm just going to say that they're focusing on speed and scalability in the blockchain. And so it runs on a crazy operating system, I think called Rust. Never heard of it before until today. But SUI is trading at $2.09 per token. There's only 10 billion outstanding tokens, which I think, in all things considering, in the world of crypto is actually a low float out there, like a low number of tokens. And SUI just seems to be a really interesting project that is good for non-fungible tokens, DeFi contracts, because it leverages parallel processing. So you stake and you burn your SUI tokens if you have a project, but it solves the speed problem not in consensus necessarily on like proof of work consensus, but it does it with proof of stake and parallel processing. So it's allegedly going to be able to do almost 300,000 transactions per second. That's a big deal. So I'm kind of liking the SUI project. I hear good things about it, and it's up maybe, I don't know, I think it's down 4% year to date, but up 40 in the last year or two. So kind of keeping my eye on SUI, SUI.
Yeah, I'm checking it out. Not one that came across my radar recently. It's had a wild year, Mr. Bill. It shot up to what was a new all-time high. Well, it came out, looks like back, you're right, around that time frame, around $1.40, and then it kind of vacillated down, then shot up to about 208, 209 back in March of this year. And then they really came for it, and down on August 5th, when everything else took a beating, which kind of gets back to that whole crypto correlation conversation, Mr. Bill. It got down to 53 cents again. So if you bought SUI back on August 5th, you're looking pretty happy right now, hitting a new all-time high today of about 210. So you're talking 4x just since August 5th, just in 2 months. So SUI been on the rampage. Is this one on your radar, listeners? Maybe it sounds like it should be. It's certainly got some action behind it, and it's got some decent market cap out there as well. So maybe we'll see SUI making its way into our top 10 sometime soon. All right, listeners, that music means we've come to the end of another epic sojourn through the world of all things crypto. I want to thank our guest, Mr. Bill, for bringing it as usual, talking about a fun altcoin like SUI and S&P Skew and everything else. If folks want to continue the conversation with you, Mr. Bill, where should they go? What should they do?
Well, you can always visit our website at CenacleCapital.com or look for us, again, at Cenacle Capital on Twitter. And please, hit me up on LinkedIn because I've started writing a newsletter. I've got maybe 10 or 15 publications out, and I talk about the world of crypto, options, blockchain, health and wellness. So all the things that are kind of important to me. So it's a fun way for me to express what I see. Skew, option volatility, cash secured put options, like all the stuff that I just really dig, I'm putting out there on LinkedIn. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and subscribe to my newsletter.
There you go. Bill's newsletter, All Things SUI, coming to an email inbox near you. And if folks want to check out your book, give it a plug, sir.
Yes, it's the Essential Estate Professionals Toolkit for Recovering Cryptocurrency. Just go to Amazon.com. We self-publish the book. You can do a search for estate planning, crypto estate planning, and you'll see the book come up as, maybe the fourth or fifth one down. Of course, you can always take that crazy Italian last name, Ulivieri. That's Ulivieri. Type it in your Amazon search bar, and feel free to buy a copy and support what we're doing.
There you go. Check out a copy over there on this up-and-coming retailer known as Amazon. I think they're going to go places out there. Amazon. Check out Bill's book and give him a follow on Twitter while you're at it, at Cenacle Capital, Cenacle Capital, all one word out there. And, of course, while you're checking things out, head on over to Amberdata, amberdata.io, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires on all this data and a whole bunch more. That's going to do it for us on the network today. Back again tomorrow, rolling out the Pro Q&A hot seat with our pal, Mr. Steve Sosnick from Interactive Brokers. If you have some crypto questions, you might be able to tackle those as well. Talk vol and options and everything else. Wednesday, of course, the newest double-header addition to the network. We have, of course, Options Bootcamp followed by the Futures Rundown. What crypto will make it onto the Futures Rundown? I guess you got to tune in every week to find out. And then, of course, Thursday, the Option Block, and This Week in Futures Options, another show that touches on Bitcoin and crypto. In fact, we did so just last week on the show with our buddy, Mr. Dan Gramza. So check out that one if you are intrigued. Friday, of course, volatility views. So if you want to go deeper into conversations like we had today about Skew and the S&P and the volatility they're in, all sorts of fun volatility views on Friday. Then one final time for our pro members, we come back for a little bit of the old options oddities. Of course, you can find all that fun, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. And we're back again next Monday, another episode of the Crypto Rundown. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amber Data. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amber Data delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amber Data eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.